Aloha and good afternoon. Welcome to our House Committee on Education hearing today. Today's date is March 21st, and it is 2 o'clock, and we are in conference room 309. So first up, we have HCR 38, HR 27, requesting the Board of Education to adopt a policy relating to community schools to guide the establishment of additional community schools throughout the state. First up, we have Board of Education submitting comments. And next, we have DOE submitting comments. Mahalo. Next, we have Seeds of Peace in support via Zoom.
Hi, my name is Ashley Loa. I'm the Executive Director of Seeds of Peace, and we are in support of HCR 38. You can learn more about our direct involvement through my written testimony, but I wanted to share a couple of wins with you that we've had so far in the schools that we work with. So our coordinator at YNI Elementary School, Ernie, helped to strengthen the partnership with YNI Coast Comprehensive Center, and the school became the first school-based clinic at the elementary school level. Our coordinators have also created more opportunities for family involvement. And finally, they've found innovative ways to help the schools increase student attendance. But if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer. Mahalo for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you so much. Next up, we have Hawaii After School Alliance in support.
Hi, Chair Whitson, Vice Chair Lachika, and members of the committee. I'm Jennifer Masutani, testifying on behalf of the Hawaii After School Alliance in support of HCR 38. Our organization hosts the Hawaii State Coalition for Community Schools and also co-leads the Hawaii Community Schools Technical Assistance Team. Community schools in Hawaii is a growing movement and has received increasing interest over the past few years. We got our first 3 community schools started with a coordinator in 2019, and since then, we've grown exponentially and now have a total of 25 community schools this school year across Oahu, Lanai, Molokai, and Hawaii Island. And while we're still early on in our community schools journey, we have made some exciting progress, and I have a couple examples of some wins from schools that are supported by Partners in Development Foundation. First is at Kealakehe Intermediate School. Their coordinator, Shauna, helped to secure donations and food and transportation so that they could host a winter break credit recovery program that 65 students participated in. She also organized and recruited teacher volunteers so that those students could receive that additional academic support over break. And then we also have Mauna Loa Elementary on Molokai. They have drastically improved their chronic absenteeism rate from 45% last year to just 7% this year. And this is in part due to the role of the coordinator, Auntie Naomi, and she has really focused on family engagement and just spreading this consistent message about the importance of attendance. And so through the community school strategy and the role of the coordinator, our schools get this extra capacity and support to align resources and services to address the challenges students and families face, and ultimately help the school achieve its goals to improve outcomes for students. And more schools deserve this opportunity to become a community school. So we ask for your support of this resolution, and thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you so much. Next up, we have Democratic Party of Hawaii Education Caucus in support. Pacific American Foundation in support. We also have Hawaii Children's Action Network Speaks in support. Next, we have CARES, Angela Melody Young in support via Zoom. Okay, not present. And we have 5 additional individuals submitting testimony in support. Is there anyone else here who would like to testify on this measure? Okay, seeing none. Members, any questions? Go ahead.
I don't know if
Martin.
Board of Education? No, DOE? I'm sorry, DOE. Yeah. How, so I have 2 community schools in my district. How do they become community schools? They're clearly within my district, the ones that should be community schools. We wouldn't necessarily need that for my other schools. But I don't, so it seems very appropriate, but how did that happen?
So the 2 schools, I think, in your district is that, got it. So it's it's very school specific, often led by the school administration. So the principal needs to be on board, and then reaching out to working with the community. So I don't know if there's not really a formulaic way where every school follows the same pathway to do that. One way we are working is our school transformation branch is identifying and has identified 25 schools that are currently going through that community school process. And so right now we are looking at those schools that are maybe struggling a little and that could use this model maybe to pull them out of sort of the CSI, TSI rating, which is when you are maybe not performing at the level you would like to. And so that is one sort of criterion that we're using at this point for that.
Thank you. Members, any other questions?
Chair. Yeah.
Chair.
Yeah, just for DOE, thanks again for being here. Until some schools use methodology that you will see in like a community school setting, but what schools in the state are using this model comprehensively? Like they're using all aspects, like they're including the community. They might have food programs. They're working with parents, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
If
So
there are any examples of that.
So we do have multiple examples. So as I mentioned, there's 25 schools that are working towards that fully comprehensive community school model. They all have different methods of doing that. You did mention, yes, we have after-school tutoring at a number of schools. We have lending closets or reuse stores. We also have student stores and food pantries, as well as college prep type family engagement. So there's a number of different activities, and it's really driven by what the needs are in the community.
Okay, but you don't want to venture to say like which schools are doing it very well.
They all are doing
comprehensively.
it great. Sure. No, yeah.
Working like a true politician. All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Mahalo, Chair. Okay. Members, any other questions?
Chair, if I may.
Go ahead.
Thank you so much. Ms. Loa, are you still on? I know through, yes, I know through your work as well, you might be able to pinpoint some specific examples of community schools where this model is working really, really well. And I guess if maybe you can elaborate on that.
Okay, well, my goal is never to be a politician, but I do agree that they are all the four that we are currently working with are doing great. I think that we've seen a lot of progress, especially with YNI Elementary School. I think the person that just came up had mentioned about like the resource hubs. So the schools have also brought in food bank, the food pantry stuff. YNI Elementary also has a closet of clothes that the students and their families can also utilize.
Can you mention any of the schools on Hawaii Island? I know that there are two schools specifically that I think have done really a wonderful job in kind of reaching out to the broader community to help the students that are struggling in those school settings as well.
Sure, yeah. So we are working with Honau Now Elementary School, and our coordinator is Trish. And then we have Mountain View Elementary, and our coordinator there is Allison.
Okay, thanks. Thanks, Chair.
Members, any other questions? Seeing none, let's move on to HCR 79, HR 64, requesting the Board of Education in partnership with the State Public Charter School Commission to submit a report on increasing access to stable, suitable, and affordable facilities for public charter schools. First up, we have Board of Education submitting comments. Next, we have State Public Charter School Commission in support.
Hello, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Thank you for this opportunity. We do stand on our written testimony, specifically the intent of HCR 79 and HR 64. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next, we have David Miyashiro, Hawaii Kids Can, in support.
Aloha, Chair Woodson, Vice Chair Latika, and members of the committee. I'm David Sun Miyashiro, Executive Director of Hawaii Kids Can. I stand on our written testimony in strong support of HCR 79, HR 64, and offer a few notes. First, as the entity that has the constitutional power and responsibility to formulate statewide educational policy, The Hawaii State Board of Education should be at the table in the work described by the resolution. While charter schools have unique challenges and contexts, the issues of school facilities, enrollment trends, and state facilities are too broad to simply put into a neat charter school silo. This resolution is an opportunity to look holistically at the needs of our public schools, including public charter schools. Through the collective partnership between the BOE and the Commission, we can eliminate the not it effect of major issues falling through the cracks due to a lack of clarity of responsibilities. For example, I'm looking forward to a broader discussion of unused and underutilized state facilities and how our state could better maximize our existing resources. Furthermore, uncertain economic conditions make the exploration of innovative financing options for charter schools even more necessary. 16 states have already enacted policies that provide some form of assistance to support the financing of charter school facilities. I've personally had the chance to tour schools like Seeks and hear their frustrations over the years with the issue of facilities, so I know a change is needed. This is a time to be creative and do things differently, and I'm hopeful HCR 79, HR 64 can be a catalyst. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next up, we have National Alliance for Public Charter Schools in support. Not present. We have Kanu Oka'aina in support. We also have Kualapu'u Public Charter Schools in Molokai in support, and 3 individuals in support, and Navahi also in support. Is there anyone else wishing to testify? Please go ahead. Kindly state your name for the record.
Angela Melody Young on behalf of CARES. Testifying in strong support. So charter schools have a special focus and have an appropriation of funds from the general funds. Charter schools have a special focus and it can include Hawaiian knowledge-based schools, artificial intelligence schools, and it's just as important as public schools. So the states should consider increasing access to affordable facilities for charter schools. There was a measure this year heard about statutory exemptions for charter schools, amending Chapter 302D, the statutes governing public charter schools, to be upgraded by adding a new section applicable to pre-kindergarten public charter schools. So we can see that there is a need for charter schools at all grade levels to create accessible education for students. So we should be in support. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. We don't have your testimony on record. If you could make sure we get a copy. Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to testify on this measure? Please go ahead and state your name for the record.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Cameron Hurt. I am testifying today in my capacity as Governing Board Chair of Voyager Public Charter School. I'm also a very proud former teacher, and I had the unique experience of teaching both charter, private, and public education here in the islands of Hawaii. I'm today testifying in strong support. Everybody has given beautiful, articulate reasons as to why you should support this resolution. I want to give you a real world. Right now, my current charter school is grappling with facilities issues, and we're at the mercy of our landlord. And our landlord, in no uncertain terms, has told us, I'm sorry, direct quote, they don't have the appetite to continue to be financially bending for the students and the teachers now that they have a refinance loan. So now they have been able to hike their rates on us, and we have to match. And before anything, we have to consider what looking for other facilities might even look like. We came from a warehouse in Kaka'ako to finally be in a makeshift school building in Makiki. And it's beautiful and it's wonderful. This resolution would be able to allow fellow governing board chairs like myself to sit down with their principals, look at different lists of possible options instead of going out, getting private realtors, looking at mostly businesses, because we don't have access to all the information that the DOE has about different facilities that we can use. So I, again, just wanted to give you guys that real world example and hope that you guys really take this resolution seriously and pass it through. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And same request, if we can also receive a copy of your testimony for it to be on record. Mahalo. Anyone else wishing to testify? Okay, seeing none. Members, any questions? Rep. Martin.
There you go.
I know you didn't testify on this bill, but for the DOE, please. Sorry. So, as you know, there is a school in my district that's tremendously underutilized the space, and I had spoken to DOE about having Malama Honua, which was looking for a campus, looking for a home, to share that space. And the principal was okay with it, but then the DOE said, no, we're going to use that space for HR. So my question is there any disincentive for the DOE to have DOE campuses used by charter schools? Does that somehow financially put you on the hook for like maintenance and repair and facilities in a way that you otherwise wouldn't be beholden to charter schools?
So we do, we work with our charter schools extensively. We do have charter schools that are on former DOE campuses, and we've had to work to create MOAs to figure out how best to break down the finances and paying for the different repairs and daily operations that are involved with that. It is something that it does just take a little extra work. I don't think we're necessarily opposed to it, but it's also, we need to look at it in the broader picture of whatever other needs we have to try and save money for the department as well and to be effective. So I'm not able to speak directly to that particular school and what happened in that case, but.
No, it was more general, just meaning that right now you don't have to do anything for them facilities-wise, whereas if you hosted them, would that mean you were responsible for their repairs and for, I don't know, any facilities upgrades or expansion?
Yeah, I'm sorry, yeah. So we would work to, we'd have to write that on in a memorandum of agreement where we would have to figure out how best to navigate that.
Any other questions?
Yeah, Chair.
Go ahead.
Thank you also for DOE. And I just want to make a point of clarification. Per 302D, it was mentioned that there's a provision that says that funding is provided via or for charter schools. That is a may, not a shall. And so there is no funding in the formula provided for charter schools, which is part of the issue. This is not my proposal, but I just wanted to make that point of clarification. Do you work with DAGs to figure out what spaces across the state are underutilized in which maybe the charter schools can't take advantage of? Do you have an idea as to like the percentage of underutilized space
No, we don't work with DAGs.
for
to do
state
that.
buildings?
No, that would be a DAGs initiative. They would have
Okay. But DAGs does have that list?
You'd have to ask DAGs. I apologize. I don't know.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Members, any other questions? Question for public charter schools? Yeah. Hi, Ed. So what current process do you have kind of in place when you hear us, the testimony from Voyager when they're experiencing challenges with their existing facilities?
Yeah, we are very aware that this is an ongoing perennial problem. I was a charter school leader myself. I was fortunate enough to be in a conversion charter school at the time, but I know that this is an issue that it's very weighty, especially knowing that there could be a termination of a lease. So we are very aware, we support, and we want to make sure that we're bringing the awareness out to the public and to empower our school leaders to advocate for themselves as well.
Does the commission ever get involved with these types of, when they negotiate any?
No, not
Okay.
directly as the authorizer, we wouldn't.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions, members? Okay, seeing none, let's move on to HCR 112, HR 93, urging the Department of Education in collaboration with the Office of School Facilities and Support Services to develop procedures that will expedite the hiring process for security guards regulated under Chapters 463 Hawaii Revised Statutes. First up, we have Department of Education in support.
Good afternoon, Chair Whitson, Vice Chair LaChica, and members of the committee. Audrey Downo, Assistant Superintendent, in behalf of the Department of Education. We stand on our written testimony and we'll be here if any questions.
Thank you. Next up, we have Board of Private Guards and Detectives submitting comments. Thank you so much. And that's it for our testifier list. Is there anyone else wishing to testify? Please go ahead.
Aloha, Angela Melody Young, testifying on behalf of CARES in strong support. So Chapter 463-8 in the Hawaii Revised Statutes. It's the qualifications for those applying to be guards for a license. Okay, so within this chapter, it says the board may grant a principal guard license to a suitable individual if the guard is within these qualifications. And so the qualifications are be not less than 18 years of age, have had a high school education or its equivalent, have had experience reasonably equivalent to at least 4 years of full-time guard work, and not be presently suffering from psychiatric or psychological disorder, which is related and detrimental to a person's performance in the profession, or lack of an adequate performance in the profession. And also a qualification is that the guard cannot have been convicted in any jurisdiction of a crime which reflects unfavorably on the fitness of the applicant to engage in the profession unless the conviction is annulled or expunged by court order. And so the last qualification is that also the guard has to be honest and truthful in their fair dealings. So to expedite the hiring process, the state should consider keeping to the strict code of conduct highlighted in Chapter 463-8 and to adhere to the list of qualifications to license guards. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Anyone else wishing to testify? Seeing none, members, questions? Go ahead, Chair.
Okay, I don't see anyone from OTM here, but someone from the DOE. Fast. Thank you for being here. I think it's most certainly appropriate in certain settings for there to be security guards, not in others. I might be reading between the lines with regards to your testimony, but it seems like the department is indicating that there needs to be more nuanced, specialized training with regards to interfacing between security guards and students, because the end result is we're not trying to kick kids out of school. Most certainly, if a student is exhibiting violence against another student or a teacher, then that needs to be dealt with. But even before we get to that point, like, what are some of the identifiers? And am I reading correctly when I say that the department is moving in the direction of putting together a training program for security guards for those principals and complex area superintendents that want that in their schools?
Hi, Chair, Vice Chair. I am Max Mendoza. I'm the Director of the Safety, Security, Emergency Preparedness Branch for the DOE. My short answer to your question, Chair, is yes. We're putting together a curriculum for all of our school security attendants, and we have done that in the past, and we'll continue to do so. One of the most important things addressing or focusing on some of the issues that you talked about, Chair, is our guards, we call them school security attendants, school safety and security officers are required to go through what we call QBS safety care training. And it is a course that trains school security attendants and others, counselors and others at the school in de-escalation of fights and high-risk incidents, as well as understanding what the concerning behaviors are. So they go through that type of training. Having been a trainer myself, some of that training is about a day or two. It's been a while. Another thing that we go through and we do teach our folks is what we call threat assessment. We're in the midst of developing our threat assessment program in the Hawaii State Department of Education, and that program will train everyone. And many of the schools have already gone through that training on what the concerning behaviors are, and if there are any type of threatening behavior, there is a process on assessing that threat with regards to whether it's a credible threat or a negligible threat. And we do what we need to do depending on what that threat is. If it's a credible threat, we put a safety plan together. If it's a negligible threat, all we do is monitor it. And if it increases, then we put in the necessary mitigating factors to mitigate that threat.
Thank you for that. And so do these security professionals, do they work with like behavioral specialists at the schools? One day of training is better than nothing, and thank you for looking intentionally at doing that. But I would say it's probably not sufficient to understanding some of the behavioral issues that you might see at some of our schools across the board. And so, is there like a connection or a relationship between the security guards working with some of the other professionals that might be able to better identify some of these challenges?
All I can say, sir, is, again, we've put together a curriculum for school security attendants, and we do have the specialists and the subject matter experts that come and train. At the school level, the school security attendants fall under the responsibility, both administratively and operationally, under the authority of the principal. So they work directly for the principal, and if there are any types of misbehavior or any type of code, Chapter 19 issues and all that, then they get involved in everything. So.
Okay, thank you. You want to add?
Sorry, Annie Kalama, Office of Student Support Services. Just wanted to add that as part of doing that risk assessment for students, we do have a team of mental health professionals at the school in the complex area that would address their needs and provide those mental health and behavioral supports that are necessary.
All right,
So,
thank
yes.
you. Thank you, Chair.
Members, any questions? Questions? Question for Board of Private Guards and Detectives. If you can share in your testimony, you listed out the requirements, training and registration licensing requirements, and then you also raised your concern of wanting to make sure that, we do make it easier to hire, but also enacting the appropriate safeguards for anyone who will be serving in a school kind of environment. You can share with us your testimony.
So part of the reason why that was included, the requirements, is to kind of demonstrate it's not prohibitive. It's a very, very basic requirements that we would want to protect the public in general, not just kids, just the public, be not less than 18. And I just want to preface, Angela cited the wrong section. It's actually 10.5, not 8. 8 is the principal guard. This is the guard employee level, so 10.5. And it's very basic. Our processing time for the licenses is usually 4 to 5 business days, as long as it's a clean application. It is an 8-hour training. And I want to kind of highlight also, they are regulated by the Regulated Industries Complaints Office. So there is a tracking thing if there is a complaint against a licensee, which I'm not sure if would be the same function in the DOE. So if there's a problematic guard, we would be able to stop them from practicing, and not only within the DOE, but just in the public in general. So we're looking at that.
When I met with one of my area schools, they mentioned that one of the barriers was the cost of a license. One, how much is it for a license, and are there any programs that kind of assist them with, some type of stipend or getting it subsidized to get a license?
Sorry. It is a triennial, so they renew it every 3 years. The first year of that triennium for the first 3 years is $151, and then it's prorated down. The second year, let me just look it up real quick. The second year is $116, and the third year is $81 for that.
And are there any programs that help assist them with the payment of the fees if they're unable to?
Not that I'm aware of. I know that some of the guard agencies, they'll put that up front for the employee. So.
Okay, thank you. Members, any other questions? Okay, seeing none, let's move on to HCR 137, HR 118, requesting the Board of Education to amend its policy on valedictorian designation to exclusively recognize students with exceptional academic achievements as demonstrated by their academic honors, grade point average, and performance in rigorous academic courses. First up, we have Board of Education submitting comments. Not present. Department of Education submitting comments.
Aloha, Chair Woodson, Vice Chair Lachika, Winston Sakurai, Curriculum Innovation Branch Director. The department stands on its written testimony, and thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you so much. Next, we have Clara Steele, individual submitting in support. Not present. Is there anyone else wishing to testify on this measure? Yes, go ahead.
So, Angela Melody Young, testifying in strong support. So this resolution is about valedictorians or valedictorians, whatever the correct terminology is. So to recognize students with exceptional academic achievements. And so this is a good resolution to support because, you know, in school and with teachers and parents, we always talk about like achievement gaps, right? So in education, achievement gaps refers to the disparity in academic performance between groups of students. The achievement gap shows up in grades, standardized test scores, course selection, dropout rates, and college completion rates, among other success measures. It is most often used to describe the troubling performance gaps between African American and Hispanic students at the lower end of the performance spectrum, and their non-Hispanic white peers, and the similar academic disparity between students from low-income families and marginalized communities and those who are better off. So in the past decade, though, scholars and policymakers have begun to focus increasing attention on other achievement gaps, such as those based on sex, English language, proficiency, and learning disabilities. So, you know, when we recognize those at the top of the, like the school ladder, right? We kind of really raise awareness about good valedictorian achievements, and then we can bring attention to like achievement gaps and really just increase awareness about how to get high scores and good grades, and it's just going to be so educational. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Anyone else wishing to testify on this measure? Okay, seeing none, members, questions? Go ahead, Chair.
Department of Education. Thank you. Thank you again for being here. So this particular resolution, I know it's introduced on behalf of an individual. My concern about it is that it seems to be from a past thought process that CTE classes are for students that are less cognitively capable, I will say, or scholastically capable than that of, you know, strong performing students. I think that sends the wrong message. And, you know, as an example, on the floor today for Education Week, there was one student whose concentration was very much CTE, and she is going off to an Ivy League school. You know, just as an example, we also know that with some of these pathways or credentials, as an example, like let's just say cybersecurity, students that are earning these credentials can make upwards to 6 figures starting off, and that those credentials are oftentimes earned, you know, in the last 2 years of high school. And so I appreciate the idea of this resolution, but you know, to me, it's very much from a zeitgeist of the past. And so wanting to hear your expanded thoughts on the proposal. That's not meant to be a leading question.
No, thank you.
But would like to hear your thoughts.
We're in alignment with that. All of our courses that are part of our ACCN numbers are very valuable to student development and growth, and we treat them all equally in terms of their weight and credit that is given by the department. So you are correct. Every course that we have in our high schools are very important and help students achieve a success later on in life.
Okay, thank you. Thank you,
So
Chair.
much, Chair. Any other questions, members? Okay, seeing none. Okay, we're going to move on to the next measure. And I am going to attempt to read this title, introduced by Representative Peruso. So please bear with me. Okay. HCR 145, HR 126. E ho'okikikina aku ana I ka o'ihana ho'ona'au'au I ka apono ana I komike e ho'opuka ana I ka ho'olala e hiki ai ke ka ana ia maka ho'olu ana I ke au olelo Hawaii I na haumana a Pauloa. How was that, Chair?
Very good.
Okay, thank
That's
you.
why I abbreviate, but that was very well done. Impressive.
Okay, first up we have 145. We have Department of Education with submitting testimony with comment. Okay, thank you. And we also have one individual in opposition, not present. Is there anyone else wishing to testify on this measure? Okay, seeing none. Members, questions? Go ahead.
Is Ohe present? No. Oh, hi. Can you come to the... So this resolution was actually drafted by a committee of teachers within HSTA, and it's the second year of an effort to really dig into planning processes. And I think it's widely understood that this work would need additional resourcing. So I'm wondering what that would look like, or if you could kind of sketch the parameters of the resources that would be necessary for this kind of work.
Either way. Yeah, I think we mapped out in our testimony some of the wonderings that we had about resourcing, human resources, financial resources, capacity resources that the department might have, all related to different models of current education that we have around Hawaiian language, right? We have full-on immersion schools, we have Olalo Hawaii classes happening in English medium schools, and then we're working towards creating with the Office of Curriculum Instruction and Design a pathway for K-6. Olalo Hawaii pathways. Currently, we have one out-of-school time model for that. We just started that this year at Kainalu Elementary. Yeah, I mean, in terms of resources that our office could offer to support this would certainly be consultation, right? Human resources to help be like a think tank around each of the individual complex areas or subject matter experts.
Vice Chair Committee, Karen Nakasone, Office of Hawaiian Education. In addition, we've been providing opportunities for teachers to strengthen their Olelo Hawaii by offering community school for adults courses at really reasonable rates, and also an MOA with the community colleges to offer free Olelo Hawaii classes, as well as Hawaiian Studies 1 to 7, in an effort to build their capacity so that they can provide instruction or use of and provide familiarity to students in that way as well.
Right, and I would just provide a little bit of feedback for you folks that that particular policy and approach is having real impacts, and this resolution is actually kind of coming out of that work. Also, if you're online and you see teachers interacting on social media, and they're non-Hawaiian teachers, but they are interacting in Olelo Hawaii, so it's really beautiful. So good job. So thank you for that work.
Yeah, and we are seeing an increased usage within the system on balance as a whole, as well as increased comfortability amongst teachers in the hallway and just using Hawaiian phrases over English more and more frequently. So yes, we agree, the effort is working.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much. Members, any other questions? Seeing none. Oh, for Office of Hawaiian Education. So at the K-12, can you again mention what's available at the K-12 level, and then is it available in all public high schools as an elective?
Yeah, so in our K-6 elementary setting, we currently have one pilot school, again, offering it out as an out-of-school time program at Kainalu Elementary. At the 7-12 middle and high school context, Hawaiian language is offered as a world language, which can be towards credit towards graduation. It's not at every school, partly because we don't have staff to staff it at every school. We have heard that even multiple levels of Hawaiian, right? Like offering Hawaiian 1, Hawaiian 2, but having an appetite from students for wanting more, but not having staff to be able to staff like a Hawaiian Language 3 or Hawaiian Language 4 course at the high schools.
Thank you so much. Okay. Members, any other questions?
Question, sorry.
Go ahead, Rep. Martin.
How did Kainalu get that program?
Oh, Yeah. So we were approached by Emily Lam, who's the World Specialist, ES, at the Office of Curriculum Instruction and Development. And so we started a conversation. We identified complex areas that had like readiness and we thought would be interested. We approached the CASs. The CASs talked to principals, and then principals were able to opt in.
Thank you so much, members. Any other questions? Okay, thank you. Seeing none, let's move on to HCR 166, HR 145, urging the State Public Charter School Commission to work with stakeholders to develop and adopt administrative rules governing the negotiation process between the Commission and public charter schools. First up, we have State Public Charter School Commission submitting comments.
Hello, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Ed No, Executive Director from the Charter Commission, and appreciate the opportunity to provide comments on HCR 166 and 145, and we stand on our written testimony. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next, we have Governing Board for Kanu Okaaina submitting testimony in support. We have also Kanu Okaaina submitting testimony in support. Hawaii Academy of Arts and Science in support. Hawaii Academy of Arts and Science Public Charter School also in support. Kualapu'u Public Charter School in support. And we also have Navahi in support, and 1, 2, 3. We have 5 members in support and 1 individual in opposition. Is there anyone else wishing to testify on this measure? Okay, seeing none, members, questions? No questions? Okay, I have a question for Public Charter School Commission. So reading this reso, it seems to me that I guess the intent is to really create some type of process for like an appeals process when it comes to negotiating contracts between the charter schools and then the individual schools. Can you comment on that? And maybe is there anything in your testimony that you'd like to identify in response to that?
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity. So as far as since being in the position, we looked at this current administrative rules, and they are already in existence. So we thought we would comment the fact that we have the ability, or charter schools and stakeholders have the ability to adopt, amend, or repeal any rule. And we listed the Hawaii administrative rules there just as a reference. And so because that already exists, we definitely want to engage in negotiations, and that's my stance, and so that's why I stand on this written testimony at this time.
Okay. Questions? Seeing none. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, let's move on to HCR 170, HR 149, urging the Department of Education to ensure that each public school and public charter school in the state, from kindergarten through grade 12, has a certain number of mental health professionals. Okay, first up, we have Department of Education submitting comments.
Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, and committee members. Annie Kalama, Office of Student Support Services. We stand on our written testimony offering comments, and we're here if you have questions.
Okay, thank you so much. Next, we have State Public Charter School Commission submitting comments.
Are you tired of me yet? Hi, Ed No, Executive Director from the Charter Commission, and we do stand on a written testimony to provide comments regarding HCR 170, HR 149. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We have Disability and Communication Access Board in support and 1 individual in support. Is there anyone else wishing to testify on this measure? Okay, please go ahead.
Aloha, Angela Melody Young, testifying on behalf of CARES in strong support. So the mental health awareness at schools, right? Why is mental health so important at the policy level to supporting Hawaii schools? So this year at the Hawaii Children and Youth Summit, which is the summit that advises the Keiki Caucus, the children declared that the two most important subject matters to them, and some of y'all are in the email chain, so you know this is accurate information that I'm citing, although I'm trying to read everything really fast, so maybe some of my other sources are, like I got the wrong chapter for that other thing. So the Keikis declared that two subject matters that are most important to them is one, more resources for tutors and counselors to improve education and mental health resources at school. And two, they said they'd like to have Hawaii schools have a class to educate students about the importance of mental health issues. So at the federal level, the United States Health and Human Services have also declared that mental health awareness at schools is so important. From the office within HHS at the federal level, the branch called Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration published the new national guidelines for improving youth mental health crisis care, which helps communities address gaps in care. The new structure of mental health crisis response is this. So when a student experiences mental health crises, the response structure is someone to talk to, a team to respond with, and providing a safe place. And the HHS Assistant Secretary for Mental Health and Substance Abuse says children deserve appropriate, well-informed, and effective behavioral health crisis intervention. All too often, children and youth experiencing a behavioral health crisis faces hospitalization or justice system involvement instead of receiving the community level care which is best for de-escalating and stabilizing. So as the national guidelines outlined, the need for developmentally and culturally appropriate mental health awareness and crisis response intervention is so critical. And there are often considerable gaps in capacity to serve youth and families. So the guideline really is structured around providing care in the least restrictive setting possible. So not going to the hospital, but providing community care, okay? And so the United States Surgeon General also issued an advisory highlighting the urgent need to address youth mental health crises, and this was exacerbated by the COVID-19 pandemic. So these are good resources to refer to, the U.S. Surgeon General and the Federal Health Office. So we should really be aware of the mental health and crisis intervention responses at schools. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to testify? Seeing none, members, questions? Questions? Okay, seeing none, let's move on to HCR 174, requesting the Department of Education to conduct a study on the implementation of later school start times. First up, we have Department of Education submitting comments. Thank you. Department of Health also submitted testimony with comments. Anyone else wishing to testify? Okay, seeing none, members, questions? Okay, seeing none, let's move on to HCR 188, HR 168, urging the Department of Education to ensure that school libraries and school library media centers are staffed with licensed school librarians and licensed school library media specialists. So first,
Aloha, Chair Woodson, Vice Chair LaChica, and members of the committee. The Hawaii Library Association strongly supports HCR 188, HR 168, which urges the Department of Education to ensure that school libraries are staffed by licensed school librarians. Licensed school librarians are highly skilled teachers who help students develop the critical thinking, information literacy, and media literacy skills needed to be effective and ethical community problem solvers. At a time when social media content can be so misleading, skilled literacy instruction can train our students to be discerning consumers of information. School libraries are places where students can learn the digital technology skills they need to succeed academically, to be productive and responsible members of society, and become future contributors to our local workforce. School library programs managed by licensed school librarians are dynamic hubs of learning and literacy. Unfortunately, school access to high-quality school libraries is at its lowest, with only 24% of DOE schools having a licensed school librarian. Access is also starkly inequitable. Only 10% of schools on neighbor islands have library programs managed by licensed school librarians, compared to 32% of schools on Oahu. Students deserve access to school librarians, and that access should not be determined by their zip code. This resolution acknowledges the crucial role that school libraries and librarians play in preparing students for success in higher education and the workforce. We urge you to pass HCR 188 to demonstrate our state's commitment to providing all students with the resources and support needed for their growth and success. Mahalo for this opportunity to testify on this resolution.
Okay, thank you so much. We have Department of Education in support.
Department stands on its written testimony.
Thank you so much. We have Hawaii State Public Library System in support. We also have Hawaii Association of School Librarians in support. And then members, we have about 30 individuals submitting testimony in support. Is there anyone else wishing to testify on this measure? Okay, seeing none, members, questions? Seeing none, let's move on to HCR 190, HR 170, requesting the Board of Education in partnership with the Department of Education to produce a plan for adhering to school counselor best practices. First up, we have Board of Education submitting comments. DOE submitting comments. Thank you so much. Hawaii Kids Can in support.
Aloha, Chair Woodson, Vice Chair Lachika, and members of the committee. I'm David Sun Miyashiro, Executive Director of Hawaii Kids Can. I stand on our written testimony in strong support of HCR 190, HR 170, and offer a few notes. Young people deserve the best supports available when it comes to helping them figure out their future, life goals, and options. Their futures are tied directly to Hawaii's long-term future. While the DOE should be commended for the highlights it shared in its testimony, the reality is that local counselors themselves have acknowledged to Hawaii P20 that we are not where we need to be with best practices. In terms of student-to-counselor ratios, variation is stark across the education system, and looking at the statewide average can skew how close we are. Hawaii Kids Can hosted high school students from Pahoa, Campbell, and Kaiser this week to hear their thoughts on the supports they receive, and all reported a desire for more individualized supports. For example, Campbell is a school of more than 3,000 students with roughly 2 counselors who are incredible but also outnumbered. The same is true with summer counseling, which has largely been patched together via grant-funded programs and is not yet fully adopted across the education system, with just over half of public high schools offering these supports. We also need to better define counselor roles and protect them from unrelated tasks. HCR 190, HR 170 is an opportunity to go much deeper and more strategic on providing a world-class system of supports to students. Progress is good, but let's acknowledge that there is still much more to do. Mahalo.
Thank you so much. That's it for our list of testifiers. Is there anyone else wishing to testify on this measure? Okay, seeing none, members' questions? Seeing none, let's move on to the next measure. My favorite topic this year. HCR 191, HR 171, urging the Department of Education to develop a comprehensive plan for the reinstatement of canceled school bus service routes. First up, we have Department of Education submitting comments. Thank you so much. We have Pearl City Neighborhood Board 21 in support. We also have Luz Quality Home Healthcare Services in support. And we have a number of individuals submitting testimony in support and one individual submitting comments. Oh, we have one individual, Daniel Smith, submitting in support on Zoom.
Good afternoon, Chair Woodson and Vice Chair LaChica. My name is Dan Smith. I am a grandparent, sometimes school transportation driver. So I'm strongly in support of these resolutions. I hope we can get HCR 181 through also. Comments would be that there is a bill, HB 2082, that I would urge you to pass when it comes up for establishing some processes and community consultation regarding school buses and school transportation generally. And on a final note is that Leeward Community College has a commercial driver's license program, and I and others urge them to branch out into school bus driver training. So please pass these resolutions. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Is there anyone else wishing to testify on this measure? Okay, seeing none, members, questions? Okay, seeing none, let's move on to HCR 192, HR 172, requesting the auditor to conduct an audit of the Department of Education's statewide backlog of capital improvement, repair, and maintenance projects. First up, we have Office of the Auditor submitting comments. We have Hawaii Children's Action Network Speaks in support. We have He'e Coalition in support.
Aloha, Chair Woodson, Vice Chair LaChica, and members of the committee. Sherry Nakamura, Director of He'e Coalition. We are a group of community organization and parent groups that are advocates for equity in education. So we stand on our testimony in support of HCR 192, HR 172, but I would like to make a few comments. The coalition has been following the CIP situation for some years, and we are concerned. The DOE has built up an enormous CIP and R&M backlog. As of today, there are $2,056,974,809.02 in unspent CIP funding. How did we get to this situation? This does not help our students, schools, or our communities, and it does not do justice to the funds that have been appropriated to the schools by the legislature. If the state auditor doesn't audit, maybe we can get some clarity on why we have this situation today and suggestions on how we can improve. I just read the state auditor's testimony, which clarifies that the auditor can assess the processes and procedures that programs have developed to perform those key activities and whether the programs are performing the activities consistent with their respective processes and procedures. The auditor made 3 suggestions with respect to this resolution to narrow the scope to a particular process. We support any of the 3 suggestions, but if we had to rank them, number 1 would be auditing the department's facilities maintenance branch processes relating to repair and maintenance projects, including, for instance, how the projects are initiated and managed. Number 2 would be auditing the department's procurement of the services, which, if performed timely, may allow the department to encumber appropriations to prevent those funds from lapsing. And number 3, auditing the department's processes to identify and prioritize and repair the maintenance issues. Thank you for this opportunity to testify.
Thank you so much. Next up, we have Pearl City Neighborhood Board Chair in support, and 3 individuals submitting testimony in support. Is there anyone else wishing to testify on this measure? Okay, seeing none, members, questions?
I have a quick question for He'e. Thank you for working on this and your attention to this issue. I think it's really important and serious. And I will say that decades ago, when I first started with the department, the process was different around CIP, and the Board of Education and Department of Education really took the lead and established control over the work they wanted to do and then prioritized it. And I think what I've seen over, I don't know, maybe the past decade is maybe a politicizing of that process, or it's more subject to external recommendations or visions for the department. So do you think that the Board of Education has the capacity or the will to kind of reestablish control over their CIP? Or do you think that those days are long gone?
I think at one point within the past 10 years, the board tried to, by issuing or creating a policy, tried to fulfill their duty as a policymaker to direct the department to sort of have a broader, to have a focus on, for example, looking at equity. So when it comes to prioritizing which projects should be done, there should be an element in there to look at equity and which schools, for example, are in more needy areas should get the priority. So the board tried to establish that policy, but ultimately it's the department that has to execute to that policy. So I think it's possible for the board, I mean, in that case, the board did do its duty by creating a policy, but it's up to the department to actually execute to that policy. And where I think we have a little lack of clarity is an explanation of how the department prioritizes these projects to that particular policy. That's the kind of transparency that I think would be helpful for the public. If we don't have that, then perhaps an audit, a state audit, could actually assess or evaluate the process to see whether or not that particular element, for example, was included in decision-making for which projects get done. So I think it can work. What I would like to see more of is more transparency or explanation on the department's part on exactly how this process is done. But if that's not available, then perhaps an auditor can do an assessment so that it can be made public.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you. Members, any questions?
I have one more question.
Go ahead.
For the department. I think that one recent activity on the part of the department raises a lot of alarms for me, and that is the centralized DOE kitchen that was originally on the lapse list that we all saw at the beginning of session. And those monies were then going to be available for the legislature to address the wildfire situation. And then it was taken off of the lapse list. Again, like no explanation, and fast-tracked. So I'm wondering if there are other projects like this that I'm just not as attuned to because they don't fall within my district, but is that common practice to respond to a legislator's request to pull something off of a lapse list and then fast-track it? Is that a common practice?
It is not a common practice.
Okay, thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much, Representative. Any other questions, members? Okay, seeing none, we're going to move on to HCR 193, HR 173, requesting the Department of Education to conduct a study evaluating the feasibility of expanding the jurisdiction of all public schools to include a quarter-mile radius surrounding each school. First up, we have Department of Education submitting comments.
Good afternoon, Chair, committee members. Audrey Downo on behalf of the Department of Education. We have our written testimony and provide comments, and we'll be here if any questions.
Thank you so much. We have Pearl City Neighborhood Board submitting in testimony in support. We also have Luz Quality Home Healthcare Services submitting testimony in support, and a handful of individuals submitting testimony in support. Is there anyone else here wishing to testify on this measure? Okay, seeing none, members, questions? Just have a question for DOE. So this is one of my resolutions, and it was really in response to an incident we had at the Mililani Middle School where a fight broke out right on the parking lot immediately adjacent to the middle school parking lot. So it's like within, vicinity, within, I mean, you can you immediately can kind of see where it was, but I wanted to just clarify, is it the department's policy that even, within the visible area surrounding the school, for as long as they step right outside the school, even if it's like a few feet away, that would not be within your jurisdiction? And then the second part is, my understanding is there would not be a process for conducting an investigation or kind of having the department intervene between the two families or the, whoever's involved in, incidents of attacks or bullying or fights, if it's right outside of the school campus grounds.
Vice Chair LaChica, I believe the incident that you're referring to at Mililani Middle School involved parents, and it's regrettable, if my memory serves me right. Yeah, it was adjacent to the district park to the school, and it was instigated by parents. And again, we expect adults to be adults, and in that situation, unfortunately, it didn't happen. What happened in that incident is 911 was called, and that's how incidents off campus should be treated. First of all, is whenever we have any type of threat or any type of security incident directly outside of our campus with the jurisdiction, 911 is an automatic call, because obviously we rely on law enforcement support to do that. We do the best we can within our limited resources to if we see folks out there that are either about to fight or about to do something bad, we would actually, I've seen school security attendants and others go out there and try to either intervene or verbally tell them, knock it off and all. But the thing that I see in this bill is just logistics and resources, the limited resource that we have on our campus, as well as the logistics involved in trying to monitor and maintain the quarter-mile radius outside of the campus.
So it would be on a school-by-school basis on how they respond to like certain incidents. And so do you feel that there is currently an appropriate process in place? Because from just working with my constituents, they just feel like the DOE just kind of said, it's not our, it's not our responsibility. We can't intervene, even if everybody, the whole student population saw this happening, because it was right there, right outside the school parking lot. And so is there anything kind of a process in place that can kind of give, individuals kind of involved follow-up, appropriate follow-up after an incident?
And again, ma'am, the standard procedure is to call 911. And of course, if it's within our DOE property, like the parking lot that you're referring to, obviously we would have the jurisdiction, and thereby we would take the necessary action to do that. And again, it's regrettable what happened at Mililani Middle School involving parents.
Thank you so much. Members, questions? Okay, thank you so much. Seeing none, we are moving on to the last item on our agenda, HCR 221, HR 201, recognizing February 19 through February 23, 2024 as Scholastic Journalism Week in Hawaii. For this one, we have one individual submitting testimony in support, and that's it for our list of testifiers. Anyone else wishing to testify on this measure? Seeing none. Members, questions? Seeing none, thank you so much. We're going to recess for decision making. the House Committee on Education. We are going into decision-making. Okay, for the first measure, for HCR 38, HR 27, we are going to pass this as is. Members, questions, comments, concerns? Okay, seeing none, Chair for the vote.
Thank you, Chair. Members voting on HCR 38, HR 27, the Chair's recommendation is to pass as is. Representatives, Chair and Vice Chair vote aye. Representative Capella.
Aye.
Representative Martin. Aye. Representative Martinez. Excused. Representative Peruso. Aye. Representative Quinlan. Aye. Representative Todd. Excused. Representative Garcia. Aye. Recommendation adopted.
Thank you. For the next one, HCR 79, HR 64. This one is the public charter school facilities. We are going to amend this to ensure that copies will also be distributed to the Executive Director of the School Facilities Authority. Members, questions, comments, concerns? Okay, seeing none, Chair for the vote.
Thank you, Chair. Members voting on HCR 79, HR 64, the recommendation is to pass with amendments, noting the excused absences of Representatives Matayoshi and Todd. Members, are there any reservations or no? Adopted.
Thank you, Chair. Next, HCR 112, HR 93. This is to expand security guards for the DOE. For this one, we're gonna amend to ensure that we keep the licensure requirements in the current process. I believe this is important to ensure public safeguards in our school environments, and we're gonna have the Department of Education collaborate with the Office of School Facilities and Support Services, as well as the Board of Private Detectives and Guards. Members, comments, questions, concerns? Okay, seeing none, Chair for the vote.
Thank you, Chair. Members voting on HCR 112, HR 93, the recommendation is to pass with amendments. Any reservations or no's? Recommendation adopted. And also noting the excused absences of Representatives Matayoshi and Todd. Thank you.
Okay, next up, we have HCR 137, HR 118. This is the valedictorian requirements. So for this one, there's currently no standard policy regarding valedictorians, and our understanding is it is already kept to the academic achievements, and each school does this differently. They have their different guidelines, but it's completely academic. So for this one, at this time, we are going to defer. Okay, next up. I already did the title in Olelo earlier, but this is HCR 145, HR 126 on the expansion of Hawaiian language education. At this time, we heard testimony that there's a pathway program as well as multiple initiatives to expand elective classes as well, and different other initiatives. So at this time, we are also going to defer this measure.
Chair.
Go ahead.
Can I ask for a vote on the deferral of this measure?
Can I ask for what? Sorry, what was that?
May I ask for a vote on the deferral of this measure?
Yes, definitely. Recess. Oh, recess.
Say defer and move on.
Okay, we are reconvening the Committee on Education. So as Chair's recommendation is to defer this measure already, we're going to go ahead and move on to the next measure. That's okay. Okay, so for the next one, HCR 166, HR 145, Public Charter School Commission Administrative Rules. We are going to make amendments to just remove assertions in some of the clauses that could be seen as subjective or opinionated. And for the considerations on the last page, we are going to remove considerations 1 through 5 and keep number 6 in the resolution. Members, questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, Chair for the vote.
Thank you, Chair. Members voting on HCR 66, HR 145, noting the recommendation is to pass with amendments, noting the excused absences of Representatives Matayoshi and Todd. Members, are there any reservations or noes? Recommendation adopted.
Thank you so much. Okay, for HCR 170, HR 149, we're just going to include in the certified copy list to include the Board of Education chairperson. We're also going to make technical amendments needed for clarity, consistency, and style. Members, comments, questions, concerns? Okay, seeing none, Chair for the vote.
Thank you. Members voting on HCR 170, HR 149, the recommendation is to pass with amendments. Members, noting the excused absences of Matayoshi and Todd, are there any reservations or noes?
Reservations.
Okay. Thank you. Recommendation adopted.
Thank you. Okay, for HCR 174, this is the study on later school start times. We're going to request the Department of Education to consult with the Hawaii State Teachers Association to include in its report recommendations from HSTA about any requests regarding school start times in future bargaining contracts. And we're also going to make technical amendments for clarity, consistency, and style. Members, comments, questions, concerns? Okay, seeing none, Chair for the vote.
Thank you. Voting on HCR 174, the recommendation is to pass with amendments. Noting the excused absences of Matayoshi and Todd, are there any noes or reservations? Adopted.
Thank you, Chair. For HCR 188, HR 168, this is on the school library, licensed school librarians. We are going to pass this as is. Members, comments, questions, concerns? Okay, seeing none, Chair for the vote.
Thank you, Chair. Members voting on HCR 88 and HR 168, the recommendation is to pass unamended. Noting the excused absences of Representatives Matayoshi and Todd. Members, are there any reservations or noes?
Reservations.
Okay. Thank you. Adopted.
Thank you, Chair. For HCR 190, HR 170, this is school counselor best practices. We are going to pass this as is. Members, comments, questions, concerns? Seeing none, Chair for the vote.
Thank you, Chair. Members voting on HCR 190, HR 170, the recommendation is to pass unamended. Noting the excused absences of Matayoshi and Todd. Members, are there any reservations or noes? Adopted.
Thank you, Chair. For HCR 191, HR 171, comprehensive plan on canceled school bus routes. We're going to pass this as is and just note in the committee's report, DOE's testimony, that the plan could include alternative transportation, centralized bus stops, as well as addressing the bus driver shortage. Members, comments, questions, concerns? Oh, go ahead.
I have a comment, sorry. I just wanted to mention that in my district, which was one that they chose not to have a bus route because there was an available public bus, my parents did not find that acceptable. They didn't feel it was safe enough for their kids, and they would not use it. Not all parents, but some.
Thank you. Members, any other comments? Okay, seeing none, Chair for the vote.
Thank you, Chair. Members voting on HCR 191, HR 171, the recommendation is to pass as is, noting the excused absences of Representatives Matayoshi and Todd. Any reservations or noes? Resolution adopted.
Thank you, Chair. HCR 192, HR 172, audit on DOE's statewide backlog of capital improvement, repair, and maintenance projects. We're going to amend this to take the Office of the Auditor's suggestions in their testimony on the different activities that may be causing the backlog. Members, comments, questions, and concerns? Okay, seeing none, Chair for the vote.
Thank you, Chair. The recommendation is to pass HCR 192 and HR 172 with amendments, noting the excused absences of Representatives Matayoshi and Todd. Are there any reservations or noes? Adopted.
Thank you. HCR 193, HR 173. This is the school buffer zones. At this time, we just went to start the discussion on this regarding the various, incidents of, attacks that have happened right outside the school campus, but we are going to defer this measure at this time. For the last measure on the agenda, members, HCR 221, HR 201, Journalism Week, we are going to pass this as is. Members, comments, questions, concerns? Okay, seeing none, Chair for the vote.
Thank you, Chair. Members voting on HCR 221, HR 201, the recommendation is to pass unamended. Noting the excused absences of Matayoshi and Todd, members, are there any reservations or noes? Recommendation adopted.
Okay, members, we are adjourned.